Let's get into this and a whole lot more with former Senator Cory Bernardi, potential future Senator, because she announced it on our show last week that she is running for the Senate, and see what happens in the Liberal Party in New South Wales. It's Fiona Scott. And, well, for services to Talking Points, Joe Hildebrand will end up somewhere. Of course, in the meantime, you can hear him on 2GB, read him all over the place. Cory, now, let's get to what I just laid out. Cost of transition. Far right-wing think tank involving Princeton University, and universities here uses the word T for trillions of dollars. Was this the lead story anywhere tonight? This is probably the first time anyone's heard about it tonight. Will anyone ask the Prime Minister about it tomorrow? Hell no. Will everyone have to pay? You bet.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Paul. And the only people who will ask about it tomorrow will be the Sky News, I suspect, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. In Australia, it is trillions, but globally, the Bank of America estimated it would be $150 trillion, would require massive amounts of additional mining, which they don't even know if we've got the resources to do it, actually, rare earths and a whole bunch of other stuff, including the cobalt mines in the Congo where the child slaves are into it, in order to build the batteries and to do all the things, the transmission lines which have been outlined. This is the greatest fraud, I think, that's ever been perpetrated. It's an economic nightmare. It's impossible to achieve, particularly by 2030 or 2050, unless we develop brand new technologies which are, miles away. They're not going to involve transmission lines or newfangled batteries. They're going to have to be far in advance of that. And it's a folly to pretend that nuclear shouldn't be part of the solution going forward. They say it's too expensive, but they're subsidising these renewables to the tune of tens of billions of dollars, maybe trillions of dollars going forward, and they still say a proven baseload emissions-free electricity source is too difficult to implement in this country. It's madness.
Joe, is part of the hope here that essentially the transitional conversation becomes a little bit like the NDIS, where everyone agrees on the principle, then it just becomes essentially too big a problem to actually put a number on or start to deal with? Because these are serious people and they're saying trillions, right? It's not me. It was the CSIRO was trillion. Now it's trillions. You did the stuff and you did the reporting about the polling. Does somebody want action on climate change? Hell yeah. You want to pay for it? Hell no. Well, guess what? You're going to pay for it.
Yeah, well, you certainly pay for it. We'll all pay for it in one way or another, just like we're paying for energy.
But it's trillions.
Yes, but that's trillions that is going to be outlaid to build these new renewable things. That's not counting the amount of money saved by the stuff that people aren't going to have to do on the existing electricity, be it the existing mines, the existing generators. It's not counting the amount of jobs that will be created and the amount of tax that those workers will then pay to the government. And that is a catch-all number that includes everything the consumer might pay, everything the private sector might pay, everything the government might pay.
There's a bill.
And it's over 30 years.
Yeah.
So
let's divide that as $500 billion.
It sounds like a huge amount, but $500 billion is the sort of amount of money that we spend in the budget on, I mean, I think we've got net debt already of $1 trillion or something like that. Now, no one is saying that that's good, but obviously it is going to cost money. Everything costs money.
100%.
I think we should be using gas more as a transitional power source. I certainly agree with that.
But all I ask for is the honesty about that. Is somebody in key advocacy, I'm not saying you, but I'm saying advocacy of this policy to turn around and say there is an economic consequence to the policy. That's my point, though, Fiona, is that when Bill Shorten was asked that question, quite famously he couldn't answer because either he didn't know or he knew it was exorbitant. We supposedly live, and this is, again, it's counterfactual, right? Our politics says number one issue is cost of living. Well, a series of policies are going to add a whole lot of money to supposedly the number one issue in the country, but none of this can possibly be delayed, avoided or changed course because we must definitely change 1% of the world's atmosphere.
Yeah, that's true, Paul, but I mean, let's face it, what was the cost of the NBN or the NDIS before that was, a single cable put in the ground? So you might say it's trillions. I mean, multiply that by the time it's actually done. It's going to be more than $275 a year that Albanese said that he was going to get back. So that's a load of crap. But secondly, I mean, when you talk about transmission lines, now I have a bit of experience in this space. So, I mean, I worked as a filthy lobbyist for the Kidston Pumped Hydro program, which is 250 kilometres sort of out of Townsville. Now, it's a great program, old gold mine, solar next to it, good renewable zone, great thing, actually backed in really strongly by people like Matt Canavan. So I'm not talking about some weird lefty thing here. Now, the most difficult piece of that was not getting the grant money out of ARENA, thank you Angus Taylor, or getting support for going through some of the other grant programs, thank you Matt Canavan. It was actually that wonderful name, and I'm sorry for raising this in the man cave because it should be probably banned, Jackie Trad.
Oh.
Jackie Trad. Like, Jackie Trad had promised, you know, wild lefty here, wild lefty, to put, there was a campaign announcement that they were going to put all this money into transmission lines. The project got held up because of Jackie Trad. Not because of Angus Taylor, not because of Matt Canavan, not because of Barnaby Joyce or any other resources or energy minister, Jackie Trad. And you know why? Transmission lines are a nightmare. Like, how do you get them across the Great Dividing Range? How do you get them over massive creeks? How do you get them over big bodies of water? I mean, they're a nightmare.
Which is why the most aggressive, this is my view, the most aggressive advocates about renewable energy, like all those teals, should be suggesting where in their electorates any of these projects can start to go. Because the size of the transmission, when you do what they're doing in Victoria, where they're going to put it over Ballarat, all of the AusNet project, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars, but they're just a few voters probably vote National Party, who cares? When you start to change North or South Head in Sydney, when you start to say, you know what, we're going to get rid of this dog park and we'll turn that into something, you know what's going to happen. Instead, the reason we get to multiple trillions is because, firstly, the size of our country, and secondly, the transmission lines, which require where these projects are to be connected back to the city.